Hearing something about what was the transparency of Trump. Everybody's upset over it that he's exposing all his records that they've been asking for, and now they're upset that he's exposing them. And one side says one thing and one side says the other, and there's no agreement in this country on any line, no matter what. There's always argument because they think, well, as long as somebody disagrees, then there's a point that maybe not everything is perfect. And the point is that the reason not everything is perfect is because these people just disagree to disagree. They might actually agree, but they disagree because they think that there has to be an argument to have an opposing opinion. So that's what a constant is in this country, is a constantly opposing opinion, whether they believe it or not. They just constantly, whatever side, whoever becomes president, the other side constantly oppose. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican, but whatever side, I'm not a freaking communist. I'm an independent. I don't even know what that was. It was reform, and then they disbanded reform, slapped me as an independent when I went to vote, and I said, well, I'm a reform. They said, well, there is no reform. There's only, they turned into independent or something like that. And now, they got a reform party, but anyway, that was before the reform party of now, back when it first became, back in, what was it, 70s? And he was trying to get the, I don't know, I think it was a test to check all the things that they have in place now, is maybe to, just try a different way. You don't have to, you try it for like a decade and see if it works. That's what the Reform Party was originally for, is just see if this works. You don't have to stick with it, but at least you try to see, because there's so much traditionalism and everything, because the elite get by with the stability of traditionalism. Yet everything nowadays is in a global market. The taxes are in a global market. Everything is in a global. Everything you buy is in a global. Just the fluctuation. The only thing stable is the constant rise of prices that you have to buy, or you get charged or taxed. That's the only thing. Everybody's except politicians, the government, who gets a constant pay raise, is in a flexible, not even flexible. It's a constantly changing market. There's no stability to anybody, and that's the reason you got so many homeless people, because the very slightest fluctuation, when you're on a penny and nickel budget, and it just blows my mind that these politicians think people can afford their freaking constant, so they just charge out the yazoo for whatever. They just say, we can just charge the citizens. We can just upgrade everybody's property, or we can just upgrade this or that, or we can do this and that. Of course, there's a lot of homeless are there because drugs, which was led by probably prosecution, might have been misprosecution, might have been too many prosecutions, and nobody was trying to. They was not part of the people that were trying to rehabilitate them, and they never got any part, or they did crime, and then the drugs, they never, it's just a constant. They never got caught, and then they're out. But there's also people that go to jail, say rape and child molestation and sexual assault stuff, stuff that people don't really want to hire people for. And there are places that hire. I'm not sure how they are hiring anybody, but that's a lot of things too. That there's a lot of people out homeless because they've been prosecuted for something that they believe in. Like child molestation. Maybe there are people that hire them. I don't know. I don't keep up with any of that stuff, but maybe there's people out there that's doing drugs, got busted for whatever it was, got out and thought, well, You know, they're getting the thought of all these child molesters that are thinking, well, I'm never going to get a job. And they're not thinking for themselves. They just kind of go with the pack. Not child molesters, these people that are out there like doing drugs and maybe got busted for petty crimes, or if they're thieves, or, you know, chop their hands off, you know, if they're not going to work. No, I hate thieves. I'm just saying, you know. Of course, that's a gross way to get rid of thievery, but, you know, I'm not for that either. But in other words, if you got somebody that just won't stop stealing, or there's a group of people that just, I'm not even gonna get into thievery. I hate thieves. If there's one thing that's you can't live with is freaking thieves, and that's, look at all the stuff that has to come, all the stuff you have to do. There's no freedom. You can't be careless about any. You can't just be not careless, because the word carefree, and in fact, even the word carefree and careless go together when you think about thieves, because all this stuff, build up, security system, all comes from thieves, and all this stuff is problematic because of thieves and people that break, well, the burglars and all that stuff, burglars, thieves, robbers, whatever you want, you know, all the different names for them. What was I talking? Oh, but the way that fluctuating market of how people can't keep up with this fluctuating market, especially, you know, these rich people say, oh, we can fluctuate, we can do this, we can do that. Somebody's living on something, like the prices. They just now realize, isn't this crazy that they're just now realizing that the price of drugs is way out of whack. And how many years has it been out of whack? How many years have they been talking about? Now the government's saying, well, maybe $1,000 or $5,000 for a bottle of pills is a little too much, because they're a freaking bottle of pills. How hard is it to compress something into a pill and then charge $5,000 for a bottle? And these people are like, well, and they don't think because they're just getting all this tax money for everything that the price is raised on. The government go, oh, well, our people are making a lot of money because they're charging a lot. We're a powerful economy, the U.S. is, and they never say that we're getting all this tax money, and I love it because I'm full of tax money, and that's basically where all my money comes from, is everybody else's hard work, and I just blunder around through with their money and just spend it willy-nilly on this and that, and I can just do anything I want. And no, wait a second, I have the media coming up, and I have to act like I care, and that these positions are all wrong. But in reality, I'm just a gold-hungry miser that could care less about everybody until I have to put a smile on my face for a camera. No, that's how the politicians are. You could go on and on. This economy, this fluctuating economy, there's no stability whatsoever. It's a constantly raising price, and the government is just saying, yeah, we're going to make a lot of tax money on this, constantly raising price, and yet here's this stability, where all these people are their stuff fluctuate, all this stuff raising price. Bread, I started making my own bread, not only because of the ingredients in it. There's so many freaking ingredients. It's a staff of life, and there's so many ingredients in there. And then all you need is what? Water, flour, salt, yeast, and sugar. Those 5 ingredients is all you need to make a loaf of bread. And mine last, you know, and they have to have this shelf life, you know, all this stuff about, you know, you get these tomatoes in the market and they're green. You cut, they've designed them to where they're perfectly red on the outside. You cut them open, they're green. You know, it used to be when you cut a tomato, I used to cut the core, you cut the core out, then you slice them. But nowadays you go down to this beautifully ripe red tomato, and you cut down, there's green, and there's no taste. They have no freaking taste, no taste whatsoever. That's how everything is. They just waterlog everything to make it as big as they can, so that all these commercial places, they can sell it. That's what they don't care about the individual consumer. individual consumer is just somebody who will buy their stuff when they can't sell it to these big corporations, because that's all they, like strawberries, they used to be small and then they started waterlogging and that's all these things. I mean, you get apples the size of freaking softballs now. I don't ever remember apples being the size of softballs. But they designed the seed, everything's turning into this chemical, but they don't do anything for taste. And the more water you put into it, it's like there's a certain amount of taste for each apple. And they keep changing it. They'll change it like the news. Like I read somewhere where what the Honeycrisp apple is supposed to taste like. What was it? Was it a caramel apple? No, with caramel. It's supposed to have a certain taste. I've tasted a couple of them that tasted like that, but 90% of the time, it's just like everything else in this global market. They don't care about the taste. It's just getting into the market and put its price on. Just like somebody, I finally found some Vidalia onions, but they've been labeling, they've been putting on the shelves where the stores say they'll put up their Vidalia onions, and then you look at the tag and it says sweet onion, and then you look and there's the sweet onions. It's like they say all Vidalias are sweet onions, but not all sweet onions are Vidalia because they choose Vidalia. They have to choose a certain type of ground. They test the ground, the dirt. There's a high sulfur content which causes the sweetness in the Vidalia onions, and that's that they have a lot. Georgia is where the Vidalia onions come from. It's like Vidalia, Georgia, because their sulfur content in the soil there is higher, and it causes a sweet onion. And so the government has taken control and imposed restrictions on anybody calling Vidalia onion. It's something like that, where they can. It has to be grown in certain areas that have been designated as Vidalia quality onion, where the Vidalia, Georgia, the soil kind. And then they said that there's a couple other states that have that, but I don't know if they said that they can't. There's like 3 other places in the country that have the right kind of sulfur content in the soil that they're allowed to call themselves Vidalia onions or something like that. But you'll see them, it's all this false advertising. And there used to not be all this false advertising. You see everything. I'm guessing somebody who took people to court over false advertising died. And that had to happen like 25, 30 years ago, because the false advertising and all this false claims, it's just somebody died, and they've just run rampant with lying about everything. Because you see it with every product, everything. It used to be that whoever it was, somebody brought out something and they put a label on it wrong, or they used to be, man, it was in court like this. Nowadays, it's just, we don't care about that anymore. And who's saying that? The government. I'll tell you why. Because they'll overlook that until thousands and thousands of people are demonstrating in the street about, well, this is, these Vidalia onions, and the Vidalia people, they're like, hey, they can't, they're in these places that, I'm just using that as an example because that's the latest thing I can think of is how people advertise that they're Vidalia onions, but they're not, because they're labeled sweet onion. They have to have the label Vidalia onion on them, supposedly. At least that's what I've read, and that's what I've, certain sites about Vidalia, and then they used to be like that, and then it changes, and then I don't know, it's like maybe somebody with sweet onions saying, well, we'll give you a percent. I don't know how it works. You know how business is. They'll say, well, we'll give you a percentage of this if we can label our onions Vidalia. Whether it's going to that, well, we'll make this much, we'll make $1 billion more a year if we allow them. I don't know. Maybe that's how it is. But the fluctuating economy, I mean, look at how I've seen houses up for sale, and they're going for people, and there's all the people that can't afford a house. Then there's a house going for $11,000, $20,000, and there's people, it's not the best house, and people going these large. So I don't even know. I don't know what group of people. The groups these large, I guess it'd be groups, go in there, buy this stuff up. Because it was hard for me to buy a house here in Des Moines because everything I bid on, they just come in and overbid. They just come, I'd go for like, if a person asks for the money and I agree with how much they ask, then I'll say I'll pay that. I'm not going to pay more than, unless I think it's worth more. But if the person's asking that price, I'll say, yeah, sure, Otherwise, if I don't agree, I don't pay that price. I'll say, nah, I don't want this. I don't believe in that. But there were so many houses I tried buying, and I was just gonna fix them up. I'm not a flipper, but I wanted to buy something and fix it up on my own, because that's how, if you ain't got no money, you got to buy something cheaper than, everything else is 200. What a medium home in Des Moines is like 149,000. Well, I don't like having to pay more, get a loan and then pay more. I'd rather just be able to, boom, this is how much I pay for a house, and then I'll pay, and this, I think my first house I had, everything else I bought cash. And my first house I had to buy, and then I just save a lot, save money. Well, I don't save a lot because I have to spend a lot, but I can't go buy a house for $149,000 and not out cash. I can't anymore anyway, because after I buy it cash, then I'm dead broke. So anyway, the everybody, you get all these people that they can't afford, a loan. Everything, everything's $100,000, and that's some of that stuff is because these people have bought these cheap houses. They buy it. 2 weeks later, they're turning around. They just raise the price $50,000. And, if they buy something for $12,000, they'll turn around, not do anything to it, and charge $60,000. And these people, and then now these people that are going around trying to find a house, they just got their mind blown. Well, we're not going to be able to buy that house. They want 60 grand for it. And you're saying, well, people can't look at the freaking rent. I mean, you pay $800 to $1,200 a month in rent. Who can afford $800 to $1,200 a month in rent unless you're just putting out all your money for rent? And then they have and this is how the government is. They say, they want everybody to be controlled by, around here they're building. It's like all they're building is apartments everywhere. It looks like communist Russia or Czechoslovakia or something, where they just got giant apartment buildings everywhere where people just are stuck paying the rent, stuck with a dead job that they're passed on from generation to generation, passed on cars from generation to generation. They're only allowed, everybody's votes, it's like you're controlled by the populace or a group of populists that, oh, you can only have this kind of job. Oh, you can only, they control everything. That's almost how this country is where, if you're not stereotyped, if you're not, it's almost as quiet. It's like a quiet communism without advertising that it is a communism. And so all these people, they can't afford this. And I, and now I see, I'm looking for a pickup. I'm not going to spend $30,000 for a pickup where I use just to go back and forth to work. I don't need all that freaking radio, all those electronic gadgets. I don't want them because I don't want all that stuff to have to be replaced every time an electronic gadget goes out. I lived in Louisiana and I had a freaking stereo that I had, but now I don't because all the stuff corroded in there from because I didn't, you have to run your air conditioner 24. You have to have it heat and air. You can never open up your windows because if you do, then anything electronic is gonna, and all my stereo stuff corroded. I had like a $2,000 stereo and I had a Freightliner. I had a $2,000 stereo on that, corroded. Waste of money. I went to turn it on, it's nothing. Looked inside, took a flashlight, looked inside, just like anodized. It just looked like anodized stuff all over the place. I was like, I'm not buying into electronics anymore. Just like phones, they want $1,000 for a phone. Now they want $2,000 for a phone. And that, in what is it? I figured out that with the phone and with the plan, you're spending almost $3,000 a year. Say, well, you got a 2-year plan. It's about I think it was $3,000 a year. So in like 10 years, you're spending what, 30 grand for a freaking phone? $30,000 for a phone? You think, well, you get a phone, yeah, and then you got to get Wi-Fi, and you don't have to, but if you have a computer at home, I don't know how people are doing it. They got new cars, they got a computer at home, they got a iPhone, they got Wi-Fi, they got all this stuff. I just don't trust electronics anymore. After I lost all my freaking stereo stuff to corrosion from just a salt wire, I thought, you know what? And the batteries, everything's going to batteries. And I bought some battery stuff, and that stuff lasted for like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. As soon as the warranty goes out, boom, they're just dead. And then you got to tear them open, you change the batteries, but now it's the junk. Everything's junk. There's no power, and then the new batteries come out, and they just keep upgrading this junk that you're gonna have to replace. It's electronics you have to replace. It's no, I'll save my money. I don't listen to TV anymore. I don't have a TV. I got like a thing for to watch movies on, which I don't do that anymore because my rabbit chewed on my cord to my freaking video monitor and my $20 freaking movie thing, my DVD player. She chewed to that, and I said, okay, I don't need to watch them. I got better things to do than sit around watching movies. But that's what it is. If you get this cheap stuff, and people realize, well, they're getting by buying cheap stuff, and that's how my life has been. It's almost like, well, I see he's getting by being able to do it cheap, but we're gonna have to rate and